Hello everyone and welcome to our weather update on Saturday, November 22nd, 2025. So we've now seen an end to that cold spell. Overnight we saw a band of rain pushing from west to east over the country, bringing a return to less cold conditions from the west, although not as mild as we've seen it through the first half of this month. Rain has now cleared into the UK. Showers still into Scotland, and through today into the evening we'll see a further band of rain that will be pushing in from the west with this next area of low pressure. That will bring some wet and windy weather through tonight and through tomorrow. Right, so moving on now to the UKV. This shows that this morning we have some cloud and clear breaks over Ireland. Now, once the rain has cleared, some cooling will occur. So temperatures in some areas, especially in the Midlands, did get down to about 2 or 3 degrees, but clear skies didn't last long enough for a frost to form. Also, some fog is possible for parts of the Midlands, east and north. Going into the middle of the day, then we can see cloudiness increase then from the west, and showery rain does push into the south through the day. This mainly moderate, and through the evening though some heavier bursts of rain pushing from the west and spread eastwards over Ireland overnight to bring some wet weather for a time. Heaviest of the rain in the north, and be followed overnight by heavy downpours packing in from the west. Now, tomorrow Sunday will be a day of blustery westerly winds and heavy showers and longer spells of rain. Showers heaviest and most frequent in the west and north. Best of the driest and brightest weather reserved for the south of the country, I believe. And through the evening, this band of showery rain does track southwards as the whole system does start to sink into the continent. And as we go into Monday, well, Ireland and the UK are pushed into a cold northerly airflow with showers as usual down into western and northern Irish coast, down into Wales and southwest England, and also into east coast of England and northern Scotland. So yeah, classic northerly airstream again, but it won't be as cold as the last one was, given that the source of the air won't be as extreme. Last time we had a northerly, that air was actually sourced from Siberia, and that air tracked all the way over the North Pole and then down into the country. Conversely, this time, this northerly wind is just coming in off the back of a low, so therefore not quite as cold, but still enough to bring some overnight frosts, like on Monday night. Skies are clear in many areas of Ireland, Wales, England, at least into Western England and Western Scotland, so some frost there quite possible. Tuesday is a bright and chilly day, crisp sunshine on offer. And into Wednesday, we see some rain pushing in towards parts of Ireland. Otherwise, many parts of the UK do remain cold and frosty, but this rain does push eastwards through Wednesday and Thursday, and that will reintroduce some properly mild weather into the end of next week. So here is the temperature forecast. You can see in Scotland and eastern England where the rain has yet to arrive. It's a bit chilly still, whereas raining in parts of Wales, for example, it's a bit less cold. And in Ireland, where the rain is cleared to clear skies and a bit of fog, we're seeing lower temperatures again. But I think most areas are frost-free. Into today, highest temperatures, again, not as cold as they were. So about 5 to 8 degrees. Bit cold for Scotland under snow cover on the highlands. Into tonight, we'll see lowest temperatures in more eastern areas. There's some frost possible for parts of Scotland, where skies stay clear and it stays quite sheltered. Further south and west, frost-free because of increasing clouds and rain that we're pushing in overnight from the west. Now Sunday sees cold air digging back in from the west. So many parts of Ireland actually really only see temperatures of around, say, 5 to 7 degrees, feeling much colder than that in a very gusty northwesterly winds. Even colder for Scotland and Northern England, while for England and Wales, you're looking at temperatures of around, say, 7 to 9 degrees. That's warmest there, mildest in the southeast. Going into Sunday night and Monday morning, those temperatures widely in the low to mid single figures, no real frost prospects away from Scotland and the high ground. Monday itself, well, we can see that temperatures actually over Scotland don't really rise much. In fact, afternoon temperatures are lower than the morning temperatures, so that suggests that northerly winds start to dig back in. Elsewhere, again, I said about 5 to 8 degrees. Now, overnight into Tuesday morning, then a frost does form quite widely, say -2 to +4 degrees, so frostiest weather in eastern and southern Ireland, Wales, the Midlands, northern England, and western Scotland. Into Tuesday afternoon, getting quite chillier, so for the UK, about 2 to 6 degrees, colder in Scotland. For Ireland, 5 to 8, mildest in the west of Ireland. Now, into Wednesday, we see quite a sharp frost in many areas of the UK away from exposed coasts. Temperatures there between -3 and +1 degree. But getting milder overnight for Ireland and towards also western Scotland as we see this next front encroaching. And you can see out to our west, we see these mild temperatures starting to wait in the wings. And these properly mild temperatures do spread in. So by Wednesday afternoon, it's all cold for many areas of England and Wales and Scotland. 2 to 5 degrees, so chilly. But for Ireland, 9 to 12 or possibly 13 degrees on the western fringes, so milder. And these temperatures will keep pushing eastwards overnight. So by Thursday at 3 a.m, the coldest temperature on the map is 7 Celsius in Suffolk, in Norfolk and Suffolk there. Yes, so turning much milder into next Thursday, and 14 Celsius flashing up there in parts of Limerick and North Cork and Kerry. I thought we'd have a little peek at this as well because it's relevant. So you've probably heard stories, hints, news, articles of a sudden stratospheric warming happening. So yes, it's likely, very much likely now that we'll see some warming of the stratosphere, but it's touch and go regarding whether it's major or minor. So this shows you the zonal wind forecasts at 10 HPA. That's in the stratosphere above the North Pole, and the Arctic in general. So the polar vortex, I'll have to explain that a bit. So the polar vortex is a pool of cold air that sits at its roots in the stratosphere through the polar nights. That is through the winter time. And around that cold pool, we see a very strong loop of westerly winds around that. And that is known as a polar vortex. And that keeps the cold air locked in place in the stratosphere and over the North Pole. That polar vortex also helps fuel the jet stream that we see coming in from the west. And if that is strong, we know that the cold air in the troposphere will also be locked in the North Pole and over the Arctic, because we see deep depressions on the boundary and polar fronts that don't let much cold air out, if you will. So the cold air stays to our north, mild air stays to our south, and that is, of course, where high pressure is. And in between, we see deep areas of low pressure that just keep spiraling in, fueled by like temperature contrast and a strong jet stream. But we can see disturbances to this polar vortex, and they can cause it to be displaced, split, and so on. and that can lead to implications on our weather, downstream of about 2 weeks. Not all SSWs have an impact on the weather. Not all SSWs give us cold spells. That's something very important to establish. And a requirement for a major SSW is we see the zonal winds go into reverse. So earlier I mentioned that we have these westerly winds rotating around this cold pool above the North Pole and the Arctic. That is the polar vortex, or the PV. And, well, here on the graph, if we see a positive figure for zonal winds, that means we have westerly winds. If it's negative, we have easterly winds. If it's zero, there is nothing at all. And if it goes below the zero line here, it goes into reverse. And that is a requirement for an SSW, technically. So, looking at this graph, we're currently around here, so about 10 meters per second with the zonal wind that is very weak. Normally, on average, we'd be around 32 per second. So, yeah, we are currently much weaker than average, and they'll keep weakening up till around, say, Tuesday, I think, where they'll be barely managing to stay above zero at about 1 meter per second over the Arctic and North Pole. So very weak winds there. They rise again around, say, Wednesday, Thursday to about 5, but still very, very weak. And then, well, the average line for ensembles next Friday touches the zero line. And, well, those that go there, or even below, some ensembles are going much below the zero line. They have it going into reverse before. Others don't, by the way, and we see an uplift in the speed of the zonal winds into the second week of December. So yes, very interesting time period here. So we'll see if this has any influences on the weather. Either way, regardless of whether or not we see a reversal, it will have a weakening effect on the polar vortex, and it might deliver some colder weather into December. But like I said, not every SSW gives us cold weather. Very important to get that in. So here is the GFS midnight run. So you can see what's going on here. That's a glitch. Okay. Right, forgetting that. Right, so we got westerly winds now. It's less cold than it has been. We're seeing rain pushing in tonight with that area of low pressure and some strong gusty winds as well. Now that low does push away into Monday and Tuesday, but it leaves us in quite a chilly northerly airflow. Beyond that, a ridge of high pressure does briefly rigid for Tuesday and Wednesday, bringing some frosty nights and clear spells per day, so quite crisp and cold. Before we go into a properly mild southwesterly airflow by next Thursday and Friday, that returns us to properly mild weather and plenty of rain and winds, and that carries on into the start of December here. But we do see a high pressure getting stronger to our south, and that starts to push northwards into the end of the first week of December. So that turns a bit drier, a bit colder as well, possibly frosty. And then it starts to move up towards Scandinavia. We're trying to pull in some colder air from the east with this run. It does get into parts of England. Ireland and Scotland stay a bit milder for a time, at least. Now, by Monday, the 8th of December, we've got a very strong Siberian high ridging into Scandinavia. Low pressure is over over Italy and the Meds, and we're in a bit of a mess. But that does have the potential to go cold. There's a cold pool to our east, so if we just get that high a bit stronger, we get this pattern a bit more organised, put a bit of structure in there, then we'll be seeing easterly winds pushing it beyond that. But of course, that is over 2 weeks away, and of course, it's only one GFS run. So, this is last night's 18Z run, and that shows, yes, high pressure does try and come northwards, but we stay mild the whole way through with southerly winds. Maybe a bit chillier then by Sunday the 7th, but we're still quite southerly. Just a slight more continental airflow there, but still, that is just one GFS run that shows a colder outcome possibly coming off. Alright, here's the ECM. Today, we're back to westerly winds. Best of weather early on before it goes westerly and windier later on. Sunday, Monday, again, this low comes through, bringing plenty of rain and winds. Northerly winds behind that then for Tuesday. Wednesday's, it starts off dry and clear and cold, but mild air does come in from the west through the day, along with warm fronts, and that will bring rain. Through into Thursday, Friday, westerly winds return, really. Plenty of rain and wind that we don't need after all that flooding. And by Tuesday, the 2nd of December, we look mild, wet, and windy with a full-on westerly blast. Although not too warm, as the trajectory is to the south, but that is still miles. UK Met Run. So what's been interesting actually about the first half of the month is that we've been seeing, the air just constantly being sourced from the south, like southwest or south, sometimes from Africa, like Canary Islands, Africa, that sort of area. That led to this exceptionally miles air masses that just kept on coming and persisting for 2 weeks. So, it's kind of hard to get to that level of mildness, warmth again. So here is the UK Met Run. Deep low coming through tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be a day for staying indoors, really. Northerly winds through Monday and Tuesday bring in a cooler spell with showers on exposed coasts and frosty nights. And then very mild then into Wednesday and Thursday, before going a bit less mild by next Saturday as a more northwesterly influence takes hold. GEM, so deep low coming through, northerly winds behind that, brief ridge before warm front comes through, very mild by Thursday, and it just keeps on being westerly. Now, by next Tuesday, not next Tuesday, the following Tuesday, the 2nd of December, we noticed that there's a slight block over Greenland, but equally a very deep low in the Atlantic Ocean that is barreling in and gonna just wreak havoc. But also a strengthening high pressure system over East Canada and starting to ridge together. So, if we could run this on, we might see a cold northerly airflow. We might, but we don't know. And equally, it's just one model run, 10 days out. So who knows? But yeah, there are some slight hints there from the GFS and GEM today for something a bit colder. The building blocks for something a bit colder could be coming through. Could be into early December. I mean, and now that could be in all caps as well. So, northerly winds in Monday and Tuesday, with the icon milder by Thursday. And going to the weekends, looking again westerly winds and quite miles. Arpege, last but not least, this deep low comes through into tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow, winds could be of concern, especially for more northern regions. And we go into Monday and Tuesday as a glitch. Northerly winds return, showers on the exposed coast behind that low. The high pressure will bring a dry spell through Tuesday, Wednesday, but it's only transient, some frost and clear spells before we see this very mild pattern, this warmer sector coming through. Warm front moving in there by Wednesday morning, and this very warm air mass behind us. So everyone, thanks for watching. I will see you next week. So we've got a lot to keep an eye on. Thankfully, the weather at this point doesn't look too unsettled with this next mild, wet and windy period. But we should but we shall keep a close eye on this, as well as any further updates regarding the stratosphere and potential impacts on our weather. With that, I'll see you next time.